Okay. We're going to hire more people with disabilities. That means we've got to do a better job of providing reasonable accommodations. The Executive Order 13164 requires agencies to have written reasonable accommodation procedures, and then the new Executive Order that was signed by President Obama requires us to implement those procedures and to make them more public. In accordance with the Rehabilitation Act, reasonable accommodations must be available not only for individuals with disabilities who are working for you, but also individuals who may need assistance in the application process and the benefits and privileges of employment. It's fairly simple to hire somebody with a disability, but if our application procedures are not accessible to individuals with disabilities, then that doorway becomes very narrow, and we screen out a lot of individuals because of our application procedures. As a federal agency, our application procedures are pretty much handled by the USA Jobs website, and that website, and OPM's been working with USA Staffing to improve the accessibility of that website. I'm going to be working with our HR people in the next year to beef up our postings for positions and make them more, just make them better for individuals with disabilities so that they know that we're actively seeking individuals with disabilities and providing better information about our Schedule A program. One of the things I've noticed since I've been in the Air Force is the part about the benefits and privileges of employment, and that's an issue that we have. If our website, we have an internal website that everybody can go to. You can go on your website and get news about the base, what's going on in your community, how do you change your benefits, and all of that's done now by the internet. If those websites are not accessible to individuals with disabilities, then we're, one, not in compliance with the Rehabilitation Act, but we're also preventing individuals with disabilities from having the same benefits and privileges of employment. The same with training. If our training opportunities are not available to individuals with disabilities, we're violating the law, first of all, but we're also preventing individuals with disabilities from being promoted and excelling at the jobs that we ask them to do. I got to tell you, at least once a month I get a question from somebody who's applied for an Air Force related training program, and I'll get a call from the manager saying this person has a disability, do we have to accommodate them? Or do we have to take this person because they need accommodations? And the answers to both questions is yes. We cannot deny training to an individual just because they require reasonable accommodations. So let me just state that emphatically. We have to consider providing them reasonable accommodations. My goal is to make sure that people have the opportunity to receive the training, and then we'll work out the accommodations after they've been accepted for the training. But if you're making decisions based on who goes to training and who doesn't, if that's based on whether or not you have to provide reasonable accommodations, you're doing it wrong. I'm just going to be obvious. We can't do it that way. That's an obvious violation of the law, and it's not good for the Air Force because individuals with disabilities bring talent to the table the same as everybody else, and they should have the same opportunities to benefit from the training that we provide. So I've already been this is my soapbox these days. Benefits also include not only training, but services such as access to the credit union, cafeterias, lounges, gymnasiums, auditoriums, transportation facilities. All of those things are part of the benefits and privileges. You're all scheduling your holiday parties and social functions. If you have individuals who have mobility impairments, are you holding those parties in areas that are accessible for those individuals? So it's all about equal access. All federal agencies, programs, training events, and any activity of the federal government must be fully accessible to its employees and to its guests. Our programs have to be accessible, our buildings need to be accessible. So I'm asking you to say yes to reasonable accommodations. A lot of times people start from no. That's usually what I hear. We can't do that, or worse, we can't afford that. And I'm asking you to start from yes. Let's say yes to reasonable accommodations, and we'll work our way to no if that's necessary. Accommodations generally are not difficult to provide. They're generally, in most cases, not expensive. And in cases where they are expensive, we have to look at the undue hardship feature, which I'll talk more about in a minute. But if you start off by saying, I can't afford that, that's the wrong answer. You're not starting from yes. So starting from yes means we need to include and consider the accommodations such as purchasing equipment, or modifying existing equipment, as well as making our written materials accessible through alternative formats, providing readers or other means when necessary, providing sign language interpreters, captioning for individuals who are deaf, and other means of effective communication when it's required and when it's necessary. Reasonable accommodation can include making changes to facilities or work areas, changing a door to making it easier to open. I've noticed a lot of the newer buildings on base have the automatic door openers where you hit the button and the door opens. How many of you use those besides me? Okay. Everybody uses those. You know who else uses those? Not just individuals with disabilities. Who else uses those? Individuals who are pushing things, pushing baby carriages, pushing carts. You got your hands full and you're trying to get in the door. What do? You hit the button with your elbow. That makes that door accessible to all of us. I had this discussion, I think it kind of became more of an argument towards the end, with an individual who was part of the Virginia rail system, and when the rail system went was trying to become compliant with the ADA, with the readers and the accessibility of the rail stations, there was a lot of discussion about why that was necessary, because if you've ever been, especially where I used to get on the train at Ripon Landing, it's 3 flights of stairs to get down to the rails, so they had to put in an elevator in all of the newer platforms. So there was this discussion about why is it necessary to do that. Well, it's necessary, one, because you have to do that to be compliant with the law. But the other question I had was who uses that elevator? Everybody uses that elevator. When you get off the train at 6 o'clock at night and you've got 3 flights of stairs to walk up, who's going to get on the elevator? Everybody's going to get on the elevator. It's the same thing with ramps. Ramps make entrances accessible for everybody, not just individuals with disabilities. So making changes to facilities is part of reasonable accommodation. Job restructuring sometimes is a reasonable accommodation. Job restructuring is a technical term for kind of modifying an individual's job. And under the Americans with Disabilities Act, it specifically states that you should eliminate marginal functions of a position if an individual is having difficulty performing the job duties. There's a difference between marginal functions of a job and essential functions of a job. You're never required to eliminate an essential function of someone's job. That's what makes somebody qualified for that position, the fact that they can perform those essential functions. So you never have to eliminate an essential function. You may have to restructure or eliminate a marginal function of the job, or what I would talk to people about in my consulting days are just kind of trading off or job sharing. There are parts of jobs that I wouldn't be able to do because of physical access, but other people would be able to do. So if I'm not able to file things or file folders or file complaints because I don't have the mobility, the hand mobility to do that, but the person sitting next to me is able to do that, then we would trade job duties. So I would spend more time on the phone taking complaints and she would spend more time filing the files. That's job restructuring. We're both doing the essential functions of our job. We're just eliminating the things that I'm not able to do that are non-essential to my position.